Hey music flunkies, Professor of Schlock here, always with the greatest in cheap guitars, fishing, and skiing. Did I mention cheap guitars? So if you like 80s music, 70s music, 60s music, 90s music, any frickin' music, hit the subscribe button and remember to like this video. Okay, I'm not that guy, but I am here to talk about two cheap guitars. And by cheap, I mean one here is $99, and the other one right here in my other hand is, I think I paid maybe $139 for it. So I'll start with this one because this is the one that I actually play most of the time. I use it at gigs, primarily because it's got the piezo electronic system in it. I can just simply plug it into a PA and I'm good to go. I don't need to mic it. I don't need to worry about how close I am to the mic, and I don't need to use an external pickup on it. Plus, it's pretty easy to play, and the sound that I get from it is very clear, especially again when I'm playing it through a PA. So what is this? This is a Mitchell MO120 CESB, obviously single cutaway, auditorium size, kind of a Western looking guitar, which is kind of the vibe I was going for anyway at the time, because I do play country Western music in addition to rock and alternative and stuff like that. Again, like $139, but I probably got closer to about $120 worth of personal luthier type work in this guitar in order to make it 100% playable, and I'll go through what I did to it in a second. The other guitar here, again, 99 bucks. I just got this from Musician's Friend, and the reason I bought it was because it was originally on sale for about $229. Again, same thing. It's got the piezo electronic package in it. The reason I bought it was that I belong to a group on Facebook which is devoted to under $300 guitars. And that includes everything from Glaries to Groats to Redids to Fireflies to bullet strats, stuff like that. And if it's under $300, you can talk about it in this forum. And one of the guys in the forum said, hey gang, this $229 guitar just went on sale at Musician's Friend for 99 bucks. And if you happen to be a Musician's Friend VIP, then you get an additional 10% off of it. So anyway, I'm not a VIP at Musician's Friend, but I did pay the 99 bucks, and that included shipping direct to the house. Let's talk a little bit about the features on it, and then we'll go over whether or not this is a good deal for anybody else or whether you might want to consider twice before getting one. So this is the model T233E. I'll read off the specs to you. Rosewood fingerboard and bridge, mahogany top, back, and sides, 3-band EQ plus phase switch, built-in chromatic tuner, new bone nut and saddle. I'll get to that in just a second. D'Addario EXP strings with a lifetime warranty. All right, so to start off with, clearly the top is mahogany, but it's also plywood, because I can see 3 plies staring at me here when I look at the sound hole from the side. Pretty nice looking though, because it's got that kind of, zebra stripe or something like that, wood grain effect going on with it. Looks pretty cool in brighter light. In darker light, you can barely tell that it's got that going on. The other thing is the new bone nut and saddle are both, that's a Graphtec product. New bone, I think, is Graphtec's composite material that they sell into OEM manufacturers to use. And so that's as opposed to the Tusk nut, the TUSQ nuts and saddles. Those are aftermarket from Graphtec. But either way, New Bone and the Tusk saddles and nuts are all very good products. The one thing that I like about them is that they are pretty low friction, so things tend to stay in tune with them, as opposed to some of the tougher materials like bone. Bone is great for sustain, but it also has a tendency to grab onto the strings a little bit, whereas, so you are usually using the pencil lead trick in it to keep the strings sliding back and forth. And as far as the strings, D'Addario EXP strings, well, that just happens to be what I generally use on my acoustics, or EXPs. So that was a kind of a pleasant surprise. And the strings are in reasonably good condition, even though the guitar was made in China. I don't know if they fulfill it afterwards with the D'Addarios or whether they do it overseas, but either way, these came in good condition. They weren't stained or rusted or anything like that. I have D'Addario EXPs on this one as well. So let's get to what I found almost immediately from starting to play this guitar. And I'll give you a couple of chords here, just, so you can hear. We'll start off with, basic cowboy chords. All right, so reaction to this is, number one, it's got a sort of a jangly kind of a sound to it. It's got a little bit more, it's a little brighter, and the sounds of the individual notes don't come through. It comes through more as chords, This is almost, to me, it sounds a little bit like if a Rickenbacker 12-string had an illegitimate offspring from a parlor guitar. This is maybe what you end up with. But I like the sound. It's different than any of my other guitars. I have two other acoustics, and this just, it's a nice sounding guitar. Is it a lead guitar instrument or something that you're going to do a lot of finger picking with? No, it's not. But, for chords and things like that, sounds pretty good. The biggest drawback, though, to it out of the box are two things. First of all, the frets are in dire need of being filed down on the ends and having a little bit of dressing work done to them, because they are sprouty and a little bit sharp. So, I did the Phil McKnight trick of running, sorry about that, Phil McKnight trick of running the nylon stocking up and down the frets, and it was pretty well shredded afterwards. So that has to be taken care of. I mean, that's, probably about $40 worth of work, maybe up to 50 or 60, depending on who your luthier is. So you keep that in mind. It's the kind of work that I can do myself, from having watched endless YouTube videos. And just to give you a reference on that, if you ever want to check out the best luthier channel on YouTube, it's got to be T. Woodford's channel, Ted Woodford, and just, shout out to him, polishing. And then the other thing too is that the relief on the neck is just way too much, so it needs a truss rod adjustment. Right now, none of the strings are buzzing on any of the frets, so you can play it all the way up, but as you get higher on the fretboard, it does get harder to push down the strings, just because, again, we have too much relief. I do not know if I take the relief out of it, whether I'm going to end up with fret buzzing or not. We'll find that out later, but just want to make you aware of that it is something that out of the box it needs to be addressed. All right, so then let's talk about this older Mitchell that, again, I think I may have paid $139 for, $129. I have no idea. I can't remember. But the difference between these is pretty apparent in terms of just the overall finishing on it. This one has a very, very nice, fairly wide plastic binding, double, triple, quadruple, whatever, plastic binding all the way around the front, back, sides, and on the neck. So it's, you know, it just looks a lot more expensive. The other thing that it's got is, and I kind of dig this, is that the Mitchell logo is not simply stuck under a decal that's then finished over the top. It's actually a raised logo, and you can kind of see it's kind of a metallic raised logo that's on the top there. It's really nice. So for people who don't know that Mitchell is Musician's Friend or Guitar Center's house brand, you know, they might look at it and go, ooh, that's a nice, expensive looking guitar. Well, it's really not. But let's get to what I had to do to the guitar to make it playable. So again, same kind of thing existed with this one out of the box. I had some fret sprout. I needed to dress all the fret ends, take care of just, you know, getting the neck 100% flat, getting the relief down. The relief on this one is probably about half to 2/3 of what the relief is on that one. But the actual biggest challenge on this thing was the saddle. And when I got it, the saddle was just leaning forward like there was no tomorrow. And the two top strings, the E and the B strings, weren't picking up as well as all the other strings. And it was, you know, bugging me as to why, you know, I had such a disparity in terms of output volume on them. I don't really, and I wasn't at the time, I really wasn't playing this thing through an amp, so it didn't bother me too much. But then I finally decided, you know, hey, I'm going to try to figure out what's going on with the E and B strings. And I didn't like the fact that that saddle rather, was leaning forward so much. So took everything off. I ordered, guess what? I ordered a Tusk saddle and I ordered a Tusk nut for the guitar, just because I liked the way the guitar played, and I figured, okay, I might as well just put something of better quality in there. So I got a compensated Tusk saddle here, and I ordered it in a slightly thicker version than what the OEM saddle was, because I figured if I could wedge it down, push it down into the bridge slot here, that it would keep the saddle more upright, and I was right about that. But then when I actually took the original saddle off and I looked at the piezo underneath, the piezo was actually off center. So it had either come loose or it slid, or maybe they didn't, you know, use a dab of glue to keep it in place in the first place. I don't know. But I recentered it, put the new saddle in place, put a little tiny drop of super glue at both ends, dropped it back into the channel, stuck the saddle on, put the new nut on top, and that was basically a drop-in. I didn't really have to do anything with that because it came, you know, pre-slotted and pre-everything. And after all was said and done, I had a really good playing guitar. And so this, like I said, this is the guitar that I will take to practice sessions, gigs, things like that. And I'm just fine using it because I get a really good tone out of it. Now here's, just to give you same kind of chord progression here on this guitar. So I don't know if you can tell from the mic that I'm using here, but this has kind of a more open sound to it. It sounds to me more like you can hear all of the individual strings that are being played in the chord. Just has a, you know, I guess a tighter type of tone as opposed to the jangly sound out of this one. But they're two very different sounding guitars, and either one would be fine, you know, for whatever you want to do with it. But just keep in mind that this has got probably close to $130 to $120 worth of luthier work in it. And not to mention the cost of the Tusk nut and the saddle. That was probably about $22, I think, for both. Okay, so I'm going to plug this in and give you an idea how it sounds. All right, so that's the old Mitchell. And now we'll plug in the new Mitchell. And that's, in case you're wondering, this being played through a small Behringer transistor amp that sounds very good on the clean sounds. It has a 10-inch eminence speaker in it, which is pretty suitable for most acoustic type work, and I also use it for band practice. So again, like I said, very different sounding guitars. All depends on what sort of sound you like. But the question now is, will I keep the guitar or am I going to sell it? I haven't made that decision yet, but I probably am going to go ahead and put probably an hour and a half or 2 hours worth of work into it. And so if that gives you an idea, if you're considering one of these, for a beginner or intermediate, they may be a little disappointed in it just because, again, the out of the box experience is not going to be as great as you might get for something that's been checked and dialed in here in the US. But I will say, I give Musician's Friend kudos in that they really packed it well. It came in one of the usual wedgy triangle looking boxes, and that had a very nice neck support on the inside. And then that box was packed in the big outer square box with a lot of wadding around the side. So there was pretty much no chance that UPS could do their normal, I'll damage your guitar because I know it's a guitar and I don't give a shit about what you're buying. I've had that happen before with UPS. They're just not that friendly, you know, when they ship guitars out for some reason. But anyway, kudos again to Musician's Friend for packing it well. So that's about all I have on this one. Hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, give me a thumbs up. If you didn't, you can also punch the thumbs down. I don't really care one way or the other. And subscribe if you are interested in these kinds of topics. Yeah, I post a little bit about fishing now and then. I post about guitars, musical instruments, skiing. Maybe I'll do something on photography when I feel like it. Anyway, thanks for listening. Adios.
Goodbye.